What's everyone? Hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, thank you to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares with me from the heart. Thank you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video to help the message get out a little further. Gracias. Well, everyone, today I want to talk about a good camarada, right? I mentioned him in a few videos, right? Since I came out here, which is the homie Pinky from Bolen. And basically, what ended up happening with him, I thought I had already put it on here, but I guess it was on that other channel that I did it on, and I do want it on here out of respect for him. And basically, it's a good outlook or in-look, excuse me, on the difference, I understand different territories, different rules and regulations, but it's based on the same, right? Is the consequences of being a sureño, right? As many call themselves. But anyways, first I want to take you back, since I was a kid coming out to Culiacan, my family knew Pinky's family real good, right? They're actually from a small little rancho right next to Culiacan, and they always done their thing, when it comes to selling mazapan and you know borrachitos, paletas. You guys get it, right? But anyways, homie was born in the States too. It just happened that at times we would coexist coming to Sinaloa, right? And even though he was from SGV and me from the Bay Area, it's still, we form a friendship besides whatever we would end up turning out to be, right? Anyways, I would end up, getting busted for the double murder stuff and did my time, right? I got out, under orders to report myself to Mexico to support all evil and Daryl and the mother three Pilis as, Sapo, Rudy, XXX, right? And it mostly had to do with my bloodline or my family, right? And but I want to make something real clear. Way before I came out to Culiacan and started doing or knocking down doors for the Pilis or for our movement, Pinky was already out here, but he did what I would advise everyone to do, right? Take it from an idiot that after 23 years, 11 months, I was going to see freedom and I committed myself to what I believed in heartily. I still love our causa, right? And that's why I always say, if you're there doing your thing, handle it. Buckle up, tie your laces on right and boogie. Get out the way you walked in, right? But once you get out, there's no need for that cycle to keep returning back. You know, that's where that saying comes in. Fool me once, Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. You know. And anyways, that wouldn't be my story, right? Getting back to Pinky, as you guys know, it took me a minute from when I got out to reach Culiacan. But once I did, again, our families knew each other, so some family member must have told him, like, hey, Chino llegó al Tamarindo, or something to that effect, that he showed up. And we just caught up with each other, and he told me what he was doing. And it was nothing big, but he was able to sit down and put money in his pocket, you know what I mean? And basically asked me what my plans were, and I told him straight up, I came down, I'm gonna this, and that, and I want to find a way for us to support and open pipelines, right, to Cali. I always say it, but I was wet, you could say, behind the ears, in the sense of what that meant. You know, to me, it was going to be a win-win for all of us, not just for them, right? But anyways, the homie, as a minute went by, D from Ontario showed up one time, Evil showed up another time, and the ones that were always there in Culiacan was Mono, or how some people know him, Chango from Ontario, Richie from El Monte, O from El Centro, them Pilis, and he would eventually, he did his time in the States, so he was about the movement too. So we did a bunch of stuff, I could literally talk you out for days of the things me and Homeboy did, that in reality, you guys know I'm not gonna glorify on them, but in Culiacan, in different states, there's a big reason why the Wasabi boys hate me personally, right? But anyways, getting to the point, you know, we had just came back. I believe it was one from Guanajuato, if I'm not mistaken, right? We went out there, pool whatever we did. We got busted, sat down for a while. We got bailed out. We came back to sit down and just wait on things, right? At the moment, it was an open war with the Beltranes. No, there was no seas in between. For those that don't really know about the Beltranes, them cats were huge. Not just in Sinaloa, but when it came to the families of Sinaloa, they were the ones that went and open avenues. What I mean by that is pay government, you know, buy plazas. So they were always the frontliners, right? So when El Chapo betrayed them and they started going to war, it wasn't like, they didn't have a backbone, because Arturo in his time, me personally believe, was way bigger than El Chapo and El Mayo. But again, that's just my opinion, right? You gotta remember, he goes back to Gallardo, Amado, to all them times. But anyways, we knew we couldn't take him out of the state of Nayarit, for example. We knew they had it on lock, because, again, they had every government pay there, and they've been functioning there for a long time, right? When they were still part of las familias of Federación. And the angle that we got told to basically do was to push him back, push him into Nayarit, take him out of Sinaloa, period, right? Because they were still on the edges. For example, they were in Concordia, Escuinapa, Las Conchas, Pontrencillos, all in that area. They still held a heavy presence as in Wasaves, right? Los Monchis. But I remember one day we were just sitting down and me and the camarada, we were just, I asked him, me personally, hey, you feeling any regrets, homie? So he goes, why? And I go, cause, we're getting paid 2,000 pesos a week and you were just sitting around with your family earning more than that a week, right? And he said, Chales, I never trip on that, right? It's part of the movement and we do it out of heart, not out of ganging something from it, right? Which those were facts, right? I just put a story on how it went when we hit Nayarit, right? The prison. And well, let me just say it like this, when they tortured us in the prison, it was because it was in the prison, right? And pretty much they knew some of us and they knew we weren't born in Mexico. So they were being, the last thing they want is the states on their butt. But anyways, they catch you on the street. Man, if you had a bullet on you, just go ahead and handle it. Just for the simple fact they stop you. You can deny you're a Sureño. They lift up whatever they see you and you're done. It ain't like Cali where you mess up, you have to buck up, come out to yard and go at it with pieces and get what you got coming. In Mexico, we knew for a fact being a Sureño was going to get our head chopped off, you know? But getting back to the story, as we're pushing out of Las Conchas, we're starting to go in more into the peak, right? Because we went from Los Conchas to Acaponeta, from Acaponeta to Tecuala, Novillero, and what's this rancho's name? I don't know. But anyways, we went all the way down to Ruiz, and they sent us on a mission to go into Compostela, right? The problem there wasn't the Beltranes. The problem we were facing really was the families. You see in Las Conchas, Acaponeta, Tecuala, there's literally big families that for generations they've been working right on their own and never had to join anything. It was just them, right? And here we came basically telling them, hey, this is all you still, but you're gonna align yourself with us. The material you move, it's gonna be our material. Whatever angles you have, they're out the window. And a lot of them, they said, F you, you know? So, for example, a Caponeta, it was rough, right? Malaco had that plaza, I remember, man, it took so many times. We would go in, we would go at it, you know, we literally would go at it with where they were at, families, their house, their casitas. The minute we get the 411 on, ahí van los encapuchados, we were split, go underground and wait for them to get out and then hit again. because we knew that the Marines, military, judiciales, they were all with them, right? And just keep in mind, it was only nine homies, nine of us, and there was about five, six different trucks of different families from Sinaloa, right? That we were doing this, and anyways, they sent us into Compostela. I was the first one that went to Compostela. Playing the turista part, right? I would go in with a homegirl and just play the part. I'm todo tonto, whatever. Play that tacuache part and just peep the territory, basically, right? I remember when I went and there was a carnaval there or something like that. But anyways, we would eventually go in. Like I said, it was two trucks of us, and then there was at least five of them, right? And we were hitting Compostela from both angles. For those that don't know, we were coming from Tepic, and the others were coming from Las Varas. And it was the same thing, them families, they weren't bucking up or bending, they were boogieing. We literally get the cuernazo, ahí van estos, and we were going into this little town in between Compostela and Tepic, La Curva. Literally, you have to go 15, 20 miles inwards towards the mountains to get to the town, right? And for those that know the area, it's literally dead. From there to Compostela, there's nothing around, nothing but mountains, right? Anyways, what we didn't count on was that the families would get fed up, right? And since we weren't doing it, the homies, right? But the other guys that was with us, they were planting flag in the sense of Puro Sinaloa, right? And they got at the Beltranes, to help them. And this is at a moment we're sitting down, right? Waiting for things to cool down. So the Beltranes, they had the judiciales go in. They went in, and the families, they were prepared for us to go in there, right? And as we're going in Compostela, as you go in, there's like a Y, right? The road. One way you could go uphill, and the other way you could go downtown, right? And right at that Y section, there was a truck of them Talibanes, and then a truck of us homies right behind them, and so on and so forth, right? But when they hit that interception, right, they got rammed by a truck. As they got rammed, all hell broke loose, right? Of course, you're not gonna be a sitting duck. You're gonna get off the car and you're gonna buck up. And it's exactly what happened. And at the end of the day, our mission, when I say ours, I'm speaking for Pinky, right? See, there was three of us. Pinky, the homie Shark from Clanton 14 West Side. He actually lost his life in Las Conchas. And our priority was the Pilis that were with us at that moment, which was only just two, O and Richie. And, as a campolero, that's our duty, right? And anyways, we will get into it for whatever long, right? That's not important. And we would end up hitting Brecha, right? Towards the outskirts. And out of the nine, there was four of us. Yeah, four of us left, homies. But there was still quite a bit of the other individuals. And, you know, my first reaction was, hey, vámonos. Vámonos, all four of us. Let these cats, you know, planting the flag down for Sinaloa, stay behind and hold them back. And my objective was to get the Pilis out of there, right? And Pinky said, Chales. He said, nah, go ahead. He told me, go ahead, Chino. I'll stay behind to hold him back. And I was like, nah, homie, vámonos. It's a lost cause because just the Juliciales alone, the Beltranes, and then the families, we were no match, right? Anyways, somehow, some way, he said, hey, Chino, allá nos vemos en el rancho. We're going to hold him back, then we're going to go through Vallarta, right? And anyways, again, the objective was to get the señores out. So we split. Again, it was, for those that know the area, there's nothing in sight. It was dark. If you put your hand in front of your face, you couldn't see it. But at the end of the day, we were at the edge and we knew the route to take towards the rancho, right? So we split. This is one of them times I speak about God always being there, right? Because we would end up in the morning hitting La Curva. And for those that have been to the Curva, you literally have to go through two arroyos and get down to the rancho. It's anyways, God is great, right? He guided us, even though we were doing stupid stuff. You know, as we got there, of course, we got on the Cuerno. We contacted people, and they basically told us to sit still. They were gonna come and get us, right? So we said, Simon, e- everything was calm in La Curva. It's just a small town, right? And when we call in, they told us basically that they had captured every single one that stayed behind, including Pinky. And right away, I knew what it was. If that would have been me, I was a done deal. It was a time where they were skinning us or skinning anybody from Sinaloa, chopping their heads, leaving parts here, there, everywhere to prove a point, right? And it was just when El Chapo had said, if that's the rules they want to play, we're going to play by the rules. So I got to give props to the señores on that part, right? That they said, Chales, we go in, we open cancha. If we have to take care of people, we handle business, then we leave. They want to stay behind and do all that stuff. That's them, right? It's not going to be us. So we weren't really involved in that aspect. But to give this a conclusion, right? Again, we had it bad with the Beltranes a lot more because there was a lot of vatos working with the Beltranes that at one point were they were Southsiders from neighborhoods in the States. We never got able to check on them if they were good, bad, whatever. But the whole point, they were running with a Ramfla at one point, but they hit Mexico and basically said, F the M, F the Sureño movement. We're doing this on our own for, that type of thing. Anyways, when they picked us up, the only thing in my mind was the day before, there's a bridge that crosses it's called Jacaranda's Bridge through the Periférico. They had hanged 3 people there. They had hanged 4 people in what was this place is called? El Pichon, right? And 2 in Los Lobos. And they send us a message. The reason why I remember this about Pinky, right, was because somebody on the live said, "Did I ever meet El Pozolero? The one from Nayarit, yeah." As we're leaving Tepic, the last little town is Los Lobos, Lo de Alamedo. That bridge was hot, where they would literally throw everybody from Marengo in pieces, skin, however you want to say it. But, as we're going out, I tell the vato that picked us up, hey, don't take the pista, the freeway. Take the libre, right? Take the side road, the libre. They're going to be expecting us to haul ass through the pista. So when you take the libre, you have to go through the top of the bridge. When we went on top of the bridge, I'm literally speaking about, I was in the window, back seat, 3, 4 feet, 3, 4 feet, 5 feet at the most. They put 2 tinas, the metal tubs, and in the first one they made pozole, literally pozole. And I swear to you, I don't want to sound disgusting or nothing. That pozole look well done. But in the first tub, there was 2 hands, 2 legs sticking out, but they had everything: tostadas, sodas, rábanos, pepinos, everything you would put in a pozole, right? On the second tub, same thing. They put everything that you would do a pozole with, right? But as I looked, the torso's in the middle and the head of the homie Pinky standing right in the middle of it. They made him into pozole. And I got back to Culiacan and I was never nobody, ever. I have never claimed to have been nobody, right? But I did try to push to go back and do something, which it was dumb. They were gonna be waiting on it. But it was just one of them times. I knew his jefa. I had to go tell his jefa, hey, en el desmadre, Pinky or Joel cayó. So of course it hit a nerve, right? Because she would cry, I'm wise, wise, wise. And what are you supposed to tell her, Jefita? Or we're opening pipelines for the Pilis to have money and dope, or try to explain to her that they're targeting us because we're sureños. There's just no way to explain it. And it's just one of them things that sticks to you. So, I'm opening up this glimpse and I want this message to be on there as so, right? I understand when we're in the States, there's rules, regulation, engagement rules. But I see a lot of weenies without mentioning names speak like, homeboy, you're wet behind the ears. There's a lot bigger things going on. So I leave with this message. If you go to the Pinta, do your time. Get out. Don't leave with no promises. Be like a soldado, you know. I went in, I served, I served my stay, the causa. I won't get out and be there for those that you will know they're the only ones gonna be there for you. You know, well, I won't say nothing. I laugh because a lot of people think they're in a special place, untouchable. Man, you guys are in a bubble too small. The worst part is you come to Mexico to support instead of hearing just put up and shut up as we do in California. You couldn't hear, hey, but we don't do this. We're not in California. This is a different animal. We play by different rules. So where is all that sacrifice we once put out? And again, I don't say this to spread poison. I say this for all the fallen camaradas that stayed in the line of fire here to open up things for the movement in California that a lot of people don't ever even hear of. But at the end of the day, be about yours, be about your people, be about the causa. But if you do end up getting out, stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones.